Welcome to Back to School Night. I'm Mr. Osborn, your host. On tonight's menu, I'll tell you a little bit about myself. We'll go over what happens in class. I'll comment about the math curriculum, and I have a special detail about math in middle school. We'll talk about some math messaging that happens and how you can help at home. So briefly about me, I graduated high school. I was in the Navy. When I got out, I went to engineering school, and I first worked as a programmer. Spending all day in front of the computer was not my idea of a lot of fun. I did enjoy it, but not all day. So I went back to school and I got myself a teaching degree. While I was going to school and working, I fell in love with dance, and I met my bride there. And so within 2 weeks, I got married and graduated as a teacher and started teaching. That was back in 1998. I've been doing it ever since. I came to PFA in about 2016, and I love teaching students at this school because I'm kind of an art geek. I'm an art geek. My family, is a small picture of them. My youngest, Oliver, is actually a student here now, and I'm his teacher, and that's still kind of very strange for me to deal with. Okay, what happens in class? Students come in, they fill in their agenda. We might go over a problem related to previous homework or something that sets up the day's work. And then when they go to engage math, there's a variety of ways that they'll do that. They could do it in pairs, in groups. They could do it, we'll do it whole class sometimes. Sometimes we do centers where they rotate between different stations. I'm just very aware that middle schoolers like variety and they like to interact. So I try to incorporate that in doing math. Here's the curriculum by the different courses, and you may notice there is similarity. And that's not a surprise. When you go in and look at the state standards, you can see how within a given topic, things build on each other from year to year, which makes sense. Math is like that. But now I'd like to give you an insight. Excuse me. I'll give you insight into a little detail about math in middle school. Here's a picture of how the state lays out the topics by grade level, K through 8 and then beyond. You may notice that right here at grades 5 and 6, there's this huge line where there is sort of a break of sorts. Now we build on the ideas, but there are some things that change in middle school, and that's what I want to talk about for a moment. And that is what's expected of students. First of all, students must track two things at the same time. What do I mean? In the grades prior to 6th grade, they may be asked, how long something is or how much time it takes. Well, then along comes 6th grade and we put those together. Distance over time or miles per hour. When you go to the grocery store, you have to buy things in dollars per pound. But for the first time, students are asked to focus on what does it mean to track two things at the same time. And they see this in different ways. Whether it's in a word problem, as a table, it could be symbolically as an expression, it could be visually as a graph. And these ideas are going to go with them for years to come. Just look at our bills, right? There's rates in them. The other thing that students have to think about for the first time is undoing a problem. That is, what must I do to a problem to break it apart so I have to be able to read it accurately? I have to understand what undoes addition, or what's the inverse operation of addition, what undoes multiplication. And so students must show how they get to their answers, and I demand that of them in order for them to show their reasoning. So some certain math beliefs I try to promote while we're doing any topic. One is that everyone can do well in math. We're in different places, but we can always work hard and learn more. That mistakes are valuable. I need to come up with a best error award this year so we learn from our mistakes, and we want to focus on those so we can see how we can grow. That questions are really important. More about that momentarily. Some other items are that math is about creativity and making sense. It's about connections and communicating. That's where the talking part comes in. More about that later. That math class is about learning and not performing. This is the place we really want to make the mistakes and figure out, what is a more proper way or correct way to answer a problem. Lastly, that depth is more important than speed. We want to reason clearly and not rush to answers. So, how can you help? Glad you asked. First of all, encourage the effort. Students have come a long way when they stop and think about it. But much of math is about sticking with the problem to reason through it, to come to an understanding. And there's a math practice about, sticking with a problem till you understand it. Mr. Farwick calls it grit. We just want to encourage that perseverance. It's a growth mindset that we're here about learning. We want to help them discuss problems. This is about focusing on what's the problem asking, what are the details in the problem, and rather than what's the answer all about, what's the question asking. Because oftentimes what's causing confusion is within a very small number of items. But getting students to articulate what it is that they're unclear about is where the discussion matters. And it's why I promote talking in the class, because I want students to be able to communicate how they came up with answers, and students should be listening. Oh, I understand that. Oh, I did it this way. Maybe both ways are right, because there is more than one way to get to an answer. Also, when they have questions, to write them down. And the more specific the question, the better. I find that if students can articulate their questions more specifically, the faster they get to their own answers. So sometimes it's a matter of vocabulary or notation, or there's a skill that's not quite understood what's being asked. But helping them articulate those questions and then writing them down goes a long way in moving that ball forward. So, a couple of takeaways from this video. One, students in middle school are going through this change, and this is a big cognitive leap to ask of 11, 12, and 13-year-olds, and they'll be going through it for quite some time. But it's a good thing to bear in mind. So that, and they're here oftentimes being asked to undo problems. And so they're being asked for the first time to think about things in a different way. And this is all very natural. The other thing to do is encourage them at home in the ways discussed, to encourage the effort, stick with it, to discuss the problems, and then to write down their questions. Thank you for coming to Back to School Nights, watching this video, I guess, and please send them my way if they have questions. My office hours are posted, and let's have a great year together. Bye-bye for now.